I was performing at Tootsie's, and I met another fellow Canadian that was also down there trying to make it too,
Wow.
right? So, everybody that wants to be anybody, is moving to that town, and I can see why. It's just such a great town.
Did you make it over to the Parthenon and have the huge statue of Athena?
I didn't get to make it there. Our schedule was so crazy when we were there. We had, I would probably say, radio interview at a radio interview, and we were going from town to town, so it was just crazy. But I'm back down there again in April. I've got another performance down there, so hopefully I'll get to see a little bit more sightseeing.
Yeah. It's a weird thing, this Parthenon, because, it's like a Greek famous landmark, but it's sitting in Nashville, and it's crazy. That was an interesting Nashville experience that I didn't realize was there. So I'm just suggesting that to you as a travel advice person to Amy Rose.
Well, I will definitely have to check that out.
So we have this great song that you do called "I Just Want You to Know," written by Max Martin, and the Backstreet Boys tried to do a cover of it, but they're not as good as you.
Thank you.
So
I absolutely love the Backstreet Boys.
Who suggested? I think they were great, and they tour now with New Kids on the Block, and it's just amazing that the girls go nuts. That remember the times of the popularity of those two groups. But what drove you to this song?
I've always been a firm believer that, take a great song. I'm a huge fan of pop and rock, right? So, I like to take songs that are fantastic or great in their pop culture way, right? And, show people that they can be great in country as well. And to tell you the truth, I really never even heard of this song, I Just Want You to Know, until a friend of mine who is a big BSB fan had brought it to me and said, Amy, I really could picture you doing this in country. And I listened to the song, and I absolutely fell in love with it to the point where I was obsessed with it, listening to it day in and day out. And I brought it to my producers. I saved that song for probably about 4 years, and I had brought it to my producers when I had met them and said, what do you think of this? And they loved it just as much as I did. And long and behold, we recorded it, and we cut a version of it, and I wouldn't have ever dreamed that it was going to go this big. So I'm just so happy that people are really digging it.
Yay! And they can check it out at amyrosemusic.com. Also, she's on Reverb Nation, Twitter, Facebook. Just check her out, Amy Rose. Any other places they can find you?
Yeah, you can MySpace. You can go to www.amyrosemusic.com, and right on that website you'll find all of my links to get to know me. Anything you want to know about me is on that page.
It was so cool to talk to you, and I would love to someday get drunk with you. I mean, go to the Redneck World with you, or whatever. What was it? Get my mugshot taken with you.
Exactly. Well, I will hold you to it, and definitely, I'll have to look you up on Facebook, and we'll make it happen. We'll put you on a boat or a plane or whatever you need to do to get here.
Yeah,
we'll make it happen.
Maybe a train, because that's kind of country. A train, they write all these country songs about trains, and that would be cool. Anyway,
a train does sound good.
And tell me, Amy, any upcoming gigs coming up?
Well, actually, I've got a show coming up this Friday with Western Avenue in Cobourg, Ontario, and it's a sold-out show. So quite excited about that, as well as I've got a show here in my hometown, Barrie, Ontario, on April the 20th, and I'm going to be down in Nashville on April the 10th doing a show with Adam Gregory, who I am a huge fan of. So a lot of great stuff in the works. I'm leaving for my radio tour February 10th, so that's coming up. Super excited. Just a lot of great things coming up, and I'm just so excited to get out there and meet station to station.
Amy Rose, thank you for being on Mike's Daily Podcast, and good luck.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
Looking at your picture when we first met, it made me smile that I can never forget. And nothing I could do could protect me from you that night. Wrapped around your finger, always on my mind. day you slipped away. I just want you to know I've been fighting to let you go. Some days I'll make it through, and then there's nights that never end. I wish that I could believe there's a day you'll come back to me, but still I have to say I would do it all again. I just want you to know that since I lost you, I lost myself. Hey, yeah, no, I can't pretend there's no one else. I just want you to know I've been fighting to let you know. Some days I'll make it through, and there's nights that never end. I wish that I could believe there's a day you'll come back to me, but still I have to say I can do it all again. I just want you to know I'm fighting to let you go. Some days I have to say I would do it all again. I just want you to
Amy Rose and I Just Want You to Know. Find out more at our website, amyrosemusic.com, as we go outside of the last place on earth where we bring you MikeStilleyPodcast.com, somewhere in Podcastro Valley, California.
And here's today's podcast picture.
And the picture is of the John F. Kennedy Center right there on the Potomac. It was a really fun trip I took back in 2009. It was April, and I flew out to see my friend Colin, who I used to work with in radio, actually in Ventura, California. And he had moved out to Washington, D.C., so he said he would show me around, and I flew out and flew into the Ronald Reagan Airport, which is the best airport ever. It's so cool. You land. Actually, we walked out on the tarmac. It was one of those planes where they had you go down the staircase and then walk on the actual runway asphalt situation. And I look over and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's the Capitol. Oh my gosh, there's the Washington Monument. I had never been to D.C. before, so this was awesome in 2009. And Colin and I went to several places that were free, as I mentioned, all the museums, the Smithsonian museums, and then the John F. Kennedy Center had a free performance. I think it was nightly during the summer. They did a show in their big lobby that they have, and they set up seats. So that was cool. And then we walked from there over to Georgetown. It was neat. What a fun time. That was a picture I took of that trip. And I also remember during that trip that my wife was back in Alabama, and I was calling her to see how she was doing, and she's like, there's all these tornadoes, I'm scared. Yeah, it was big tornado time. Happens, in the months of February, March, and April in where we used to live in Huntsville, Alabama. She was quite nervous, but all ended up being well, thankfully. And that was my Washington, D.C. trip. You can see that picture, that podcast picture, on the website, MikeStilleyPodcast.com. Michael Master, I just asked Jimmy Kimmel to marry me, and he told me to put a sock in it. Oh, how mean and despicable of him. I know. He didn't even tell me exactly where I should put the sock. So I am confused and lost without direction. Like a boat on the water with no ocean. That makes no sense. I know. I meant without wind. Okay, well, tomorrow we will bring you the segment Into an Interview, but we continue our walk in the country because tomorrow we will be speaking with a country music singer who hails from Alaska. He is also known as the Alaskan Cowboy. His name is Doug Briney. We will also hear from Chely Shoehart, Floyd the Floorman, and John Deere the Engineer.
I just like watching the hot women bounce up and down day.
Whatever.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com.
Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com.
See you tomorrow. Bye!